Hi, everyone. I'm BCAN's Allie Ray, and today I am joined with Lisa McDuffie, the president and CEO of the YWCA of Northwest Ohio. Thanks so much for being with me today.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So let's go right into it. How is the YWCA adjusting to the operations in the current times?
Well, like anything else, it's always been a bit of a challenge to be faced with kind of instantly overnight needed to all of a sudden figure out what we need to do in order to be there for the people who need us most. Totally different. Even in the midst of the pandemic, that our domestic violence shelter is still open. Hopefully, the more victims will be reminded that the YWCA is open and available if they need us.
Hi, my name is Deidre Lashley. I'm the Executive Director of Bethany House. And Bethany House has been serving the community for 35 years, providing long-term, safe transitional housing and advocacy services to domestic violence victims and their children. And long-term shelter means a year to 2 years of safe housing. And so during that time, they're able to have the space and the time to heal, not only physically from the injuries that they probably have from the domestic violence, but emotionally start to put some pieces back together. And then hopefully also to financially get to a certain stability so that they can have a secure future for themselves and their children.
How are women able to get help during this current shelter in place?
Well, the hotlines are still available to our community. The YWCA is our 24-hour hotline and shelter, and the YWCA and Bethany House are both fully operational at this time, and so there is still a place to go, a safe place to go for survivors that can get out. I would also say that safety planning is really important, and then also just knowing what the resources are. For when that moment when you're ready, you have a plan and you know what you're going to do.
Specifically for victims that are suffering from domestic violence during the shelter in place, this can be a real nightmare for them. It's more difficult now than ever for them to find relief, find safety. How is the YWCA finding them that help and trying to get them out of that situation, but safely?
Even in a situation where a victim may feel trapped in their own home, we would encourage them, even if it means just literally opening up the door and getting out in the street and beckoning someone to get you help, a neighbor or someone else, out, and ask them to contact the police, 911, or call a cab to get you directly to us. We are certainly here and available. If you are able to call us, we can safely plan with you and or make arrangements to get you via transportation directly to our agency. So what we have been telling people is you can do one or two things. You obviously could call 911 and leave your line open. They will trace the call. They will be able to get to you. You can certainly even call us through the crisis line, and you don't have to say anything. We will, again, contact the authorities and have the call traced so that we can get you. At the same time, there are any number of things that we like to kind of pass on in terms of a safety plan. Sometimes, even with perpetrators, they may allow you to talk to a family member or a friend. Always have a passcode or something that your family member or your friend will know if you are indeed in danger. It may be, are you making my favorite meal tonight? Out of nowhere, your friend will instantly know that that's the passcode or the pass line, and they can contact the authorities on your behalf.
There's national hotlines, there's hotlines where you can chat or text, and so that's really important, especially during this time where people may not be able to make a phone call. There are other avenues that they can use to get in touch with someone that can give them access to shelter or to some other supports. And right now, honestly, Allie, phone calls from family members and friends are what we're getting. We're not getting as many calls from survivors right now. We're getting calls from people that are worried about their loved one or family members being stuck at home with that abuser.
What other educational points can you give someone that they can have an eye out for their friends and family who might be suffering from domestic violence behind closed doors?
When you're thinking about safety planning, a lot of people believe, there's just nothing I can do. But I would encourage people to understand that even though we are sheltering in place as a result of a pandemic, sheltering in place and enduring violence and abuse is really not at all anything that person has to do.
For people to have that long-term shelter option, why is that so important? Because Bethany House is one of the only places that allows long-term shelters in the Northwest Ohio area.
The long-term stay is really key. Most emergency shelters allow a 30 to 60, maybe a 90-day stay, and then they have to kind of move on and find their way. And that's just not long enough for domestic violence victims. You have to really start completely over again. You probably have had to leave your job. You've left some supports behind. You may not have a great support system at this time. And so it's really a lot of rebuilding that has to happen for long-term stability and security. And that's what we want. We want people to be in a better place so that they can make it on their own. And if you're a victim of domestic violence and you have to choose between feeding your kids or going back home to that abuser, you're going to go back home to that abuser. And we never want someone to have to make that choice. We want to give them the resources that they need, the support they need, the time that they need to really get back on their feet. And they're able to stay with us for 1 year to 2 years at completely no charge, no cost to them. And we try to give them everything they need while they're with us, from toilet paper, cleaning supplies, which we all know how scarce those things are these days, to diapers, to access to transportation and food, school supplies, just whatever we can provide to them so that every dollar that they have coming in can go towards their future.